Hello everyone, welcome again. Today, actually yesterday, we did create DNS in detail for Hack the Jobs first series, and now here we are solving HTTP in detail for the second video of Hack the Job series. So let's make a quick start. What is HTTP or HTTPS? What is HTTP? Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTP is what's used whenever you view a website developed by Tim Berners-Lee and his team between 1989 and 1991. HTTP is the set of rules used for communicating with web servers for the transmitting of web page data, whether that is HTML, images, videos, and etc. But what is HTTPS? As you can understand from the name of it, it means more secure HTTP. HTTP is the secure version of HTTP. HTTPS is a secure version of HTTP. HTTPS data is encrypted, so it not only stops people from seeing the data you are receiving and sending, but it also gives you assurances that you are talking to the correct web server and not something impersonating it. The last sentence is really interesting. It says it also gives you assurances that you are talking to the correct web server and not something impersonating it. Most of the tricky websites for stealing passwords or credentials are actually designed with the HTTP protocol. But when it comes to the HTTPS, it means more secure, and with HTTPS we cannot impersonate an original website. It is because of SSL and TLS technology. It's not written here, but it's good to know it. This feature comes with HTTPS, but the original technology behind this is SSL and TLS, Transport Layer Security, or the other name for SSL is Secure Socket Layer. Okay, let's continue. What does okay, they're easy. And website, okay, it's also easy. By the way, if you connect a HTTP, if you connect a website with a HTTP, you will be these kind of icons here. It means it's not secure because it doesn't use HTTPS, or because it doesn't have SSL or TLS. So let's continue. Let's have our flag, and yes, this is our flag. Requests and responses. When we access a website, your browser will need to make requests to a web server for assets such as HTML, images, and download the responses. Before that, you need to tell the browser specifically how and where to access these resources. This is where URLs will help, which is Uniform Resource Locator. If you have used the internet, you have A URL is predominantly an instruction on how to access a resource on the internet. The below image shows what a URL looks like. First one, here we have a method. Do we use HTTP or do we use HTTPS for communicating a website or web server? Here we give our credentials, but actually normally we don't do that like that. And then our host or domain comes, and after the semicolon after the domain or host, there is a semicolon if you want to describe the port, if you want to give a special port. You can describe it like that with semicolon and then the port number, maybe 443, maybe 880, maybe 8000. It's up to you. And then path. Okay, we try to connect to, or we try to create a communication with server, but exactly which address, exactly which location. To specify that, we can give a path here. For example, it says here view, or maybe it will be like login page, or maybe main page. And then after question mark, we have a query string and extra bits of information that can be sent to the requested path. It says here it's an extra bit. For example, slash blog question mark ID is equal 1 will tell the blog path that you wish to receive the blog article with the ID of 1. And then hashtag task tree, it means it is a fragment. This is a reference to a location on the actual page requested. This is commonly used for pages with long content and can have a certain part of the page directly linked to it, so it is viewable to the user as soon as they access the page. Here we have a request schema, and here it's an actually HTTP method which is get, and then here you see there is a slash. I'm not talking about HTTP and the rest of it, I'm just talking about the blue color. It is our page, actually the main, it's mostly means a main page, and then our HTTP protocol version. As I know, there are two HTTP protocol versions. First one is 1.0 and the second one is 1.1. As I remember, the HTTP 1.1, can we say it's more secure, or it has lots of functionalities with the methods? I do not know actually. If you have some information about it, you can leave a comment below. Anyway, let's continue. But for a much richer web experience, you will need to send other data as well. This other data is sent in what is called headers. It tells about these things, guys. Here we make a web request with this single line. Okay, we made a web request with this line. But if, for example, you enter an apartment or you enter a hotel and tell the how can I say, or you tell someone where is he, you are trying to communicate with someone, and you are asking him or her a question, and you want to know where he is, but who is he, we don't know, or actually the receiver doesn't know her or him. Okay, so specifying some things will be better for our communication, and we do this in web requests by headers. Here we have host header, user agent header, and referrer. Anyway, let's continue. This other data is sent in what is called headers, where headers contain extra information to give to the web server you are communicating with, but we'll go more into this in the header task. Okay, right now we don't have to read these ones because I already made some research for HTTP headers. Oh, sorry, I made a research for HTTP methods, not headers. Let's continue. Here it's a simple, actually it says response. As you can see here, again our HTTP protocol version, and it is our HTTP response code, which means okay. Here our response code and the sentence that defines the response code, and here it says it is 200. Okay, it means okay, you can have that web page. And here we have little HTML codes which shows the website to us. Okay, here actually there is something that I want to talk about. Here, as you can see, we have 4 headers from the response, and first one is server, and it is date. It is content type. It describes here the content of the response, and the content length. It is the size of this response. It is written here because you might want to check that if the response is correct or not. And if you see like that, here it says 98, but the response is for example 40 as size. And you can think like that, okay, it says here for 98, but it's not like that in real, so some things has to be missing. You can think like that. But the other things here, there is a server header here, which means actually it's a vulnerability. The server shouldn't respond with this header, even if it does respond with this header, it has to hide this information, because this information gives some info about the backend technology that web server has. So think like that. You got this version, and you may think like that, okay, is there a vulnerability for this version of Nginx 1.15.8? So if there is, it will be easier to give a damage to that website. It will be easy to hack this website. So we can say that okay, it's good, but it's a vulnerability. So let's continue with methods. Here, HTTP methods are a way for the client to show their intended action when making an HTTP request. There are a lot of HTTP methods, but we'll cover the most common ones. Although mostly you will deal with the get and post method. But in most cases you will also see the put, maybe debug, maybe trace methods too. So okay, it's a fundamental tutorial, but let's do a search for them, and let's do something interesting. Actually, when I found a website which talks about HTTP verbs and their security risks. Here it's a really good blog. Let's try to read them from the beginning. Here we have our methods and potential vulnerabilities, and their reasons. Why are they vulnerable, and how can we fix it, or how can we change our design? Anyway, I will read this because understanding these concepts will really help us to understand the methods and HTTP methods better. Here I won't read these parts. Let's just continue with these methods. First one is get. I will try to be fast. The get method is used to retrieve the contents of a document, such as a web page or other resources such as images, CSS and JavaScript from a web server. Get requests are the most common HTTP verb. When you click on a link in your browser or type in a URL in the address bar, your browser will normally convert that into a GET request. Requests using GET are intended only to retrieve data. although in reality they are widely used in other create. Oh, what was it, C-root? Um, was it written here? I forget about. I forget what the C-root means. Anyway, let's continue. But it's like database operations. It's like database operations. D has to be delete, I think, and U has to. U is, I think, U is for update, and R is for read, and C is for maybe choose, maybe some other things I don't remember. Anyway, operations in many web applications. But what are the potential vulnerabilities of a GET method? One of the main vulnerabilities inherent in GET requests is that any user-provided input is submitted as key value pairs submitted within the query string, within the request URL, as in the example below. Here we make a GET request, and here, as you can see, we give our values as a clear text in URL. Here start page is 7 and end page is 9. So the issue with this is that URLs are often stored including query strings. What does it mean? Including these things, guys. Let's go back here. What is the query string? Here, after question mark, we have a query string. It's like it tries to talk with database. Its ID has to be 1, and here start page has to be 7 and end page has to be 9. It's like it's trying to talk with database. Anyway, if you make a GET request like that, these informations will be stored in our local cache. The issue with this is that the URLs are often stored including query strings within various caches, from the user's browser history to web proxy and CDN caches, web server logs, and several other resources. So, if you send your credentials like username and passwords, so think like that username and passwords are written here, and if you send them with a GET method, think like that your credentials will be stored in your browser history, and some other person who wants to use your computer or who has your computer can see your credentials by just checking your browser history. So it's not a safe way to make a request for login issues or sign-in issues. For these types of issues, we have a post method. We use it because post method doesn't hold cache, doesn't hold these informations in our browser history. If it actually, as I remember, if it still does it, it has to be encrypted. But I think, as I know, we will see it doesn't hold these informations in our history. So if the query string containing the user submitted information includes sensitive data, then it may be readable by attackers and used in further attacks. The second vulnerability type, the GET request enable, relates to the fact that GET request can be made simply by clicking on a single link. Whilst not unique to GET requests, vulnerabilities including the below are most associated with GET request, which is CCRF and XSS. So we have put method here. Let's read it too. The put method is intended to be used to replace the current contents of the resource at a target path with the payload provided by the user. Here we have a simple put request, and here our path actually that we want to go, and our host. By the way, what does this host parameter do? We will see it later. I will explain it here. I will explain it. I will explain it in the headers part anyway. And here we want to how can I say? So let's don't say potential vulnerabilities of put method. The most obvious potential vulnerability with the put method is if there is insufficient access control, such that the server failed to provide sufficient checks as to whether the request is appropriately authorized. If an attacker is able to find the put method unprotected by appropriate access control, or else bypass access control that has been put in place, he may be able to upload a resource to the server. It's really important. We can send some files with put method, okay? But if the server has a broken access control vulnerability, so we can put some dangerous malwares in the server. So it's actually it's the main vulnerability of the put method. If the attacker is able to upload the static files only, he could upload a static HTML page containing hyperlinks that redirect victims to a malicious website or a malicious login form. Think like that. You are in a website that you know it well, you think it's safe, but the website has that vulnerability with the put method, and some attackers come here and add a link with a static HTML page, and you think, oh, okay, this website was safe, it was not vulnerable, I used it too much, and until now I have no problem with that website, and you click that link, and after that you go directly to a malicious website which asks you to submit your credentials. So you see, it's a chain of attack with which starts just with a single vulnerability. Let's continue. In a scenario where the attacker is able to upload dynamic files such as PHP or ASP files that permit server-side processing, then these may permit the attacker to upload and run arbitrary code on this web server that may lead to compromise of other users or the servers. And additionally, an attacker may be able to corrupt or replace the contents of a legitimate put request using a man-in-the-middle attack if the server is not protected by SSL TLS transport layer encryption. Okay, the delete method, if it is not managed well, the attacker or anyone delete the files that we don't want to be them to delete. Maybe the attacker will delete a system file, and with this attack, he can or she can has access to that server. Let's continue. Hit method, I want to read it, and post method. Let's continue with post. The HTTP post method sends data to the server, often causing a change in state on the server. The type of the body of the request, the format of the data payload included is indicated by the content type header. A post request is typically sent via an HTML form and looks like this. Here our post request, and here our headers, and here the credentials or data that we want to send to server, but we don't want them to be cached in our browser or in web server logs. So that's why we use post method. Actually, it does the same job with HTTP with get method, but if the situation is like that, we have to send a data to the server, and the data is special, it has to be in safe. It shouldn't disclosure. Okay, so when it's like that, we have to use post method. But of course, post method also has potential vulnerabilities. The post method is described as not safe. This has a very specific meaning that post operations change the data requested. It's not a read-only method. Unlike put requests, however, post requests are not idempotent in that the result will not be the same no matter how many times you request it. It therefore matters how many times a post request is made. For example, consider the example in which a bank transfer is authorized via a URL such as like that. Here we have our query IDs here, and it is amount, it is from account and to account. Okay. I saw it in a website like that. Anyway, let's continue. Some endpoints can therefore be vulnerable to exploits, including timing attacks, in which an attacker can potentially make several of the same request in quick sequence, allowing in the above example for multiple bank transfers to be actioned before the transfer to be marked as complete. So that's all I want to read. If you want to read all the things here, I will copy the link in the description so you can read it like that, and I really suggest you to do it. It's a really good resource to have some knowledge about HTTP methods. So HTTP status codes from 100 to 199. These response codes are related to information. It says here these are sent to tell the client the first part of their request has been accepted and they should continue sending the rest of their requests. These codes are no longer very common. Here from 200 to 299, it means success. So we made a request and okay, everything is okay. This range of status code is used to tell the client their request was successful. And 300s, these are used to redirect the client's request to another resource. This can be either to a different web page or different website altogether. 400s, used to inform the client that there was an error with their request, and 500 errors are related to the server. These are the most common HTTP status codes, so I won't read them one by one, but if you want, you can stop the video here and read them. Actually, understanding them and memorizing them will be really helpful because these are the basics, guys, and understanding the responses are really important for a web app pen tester. So it's not we can't say that it's not important. It's really important. It seems basic, but don't skip this part that quick. Just take a breath here and try to understand and categorize them in your mind. So let's continue with headers. Is there something special to say here? Let's check. Headers are additional bits of data you can send to the web server when making requests to describe your request better. Most of the time our browser does that instead of us, but of course we can add our own headers by interrupting the request and changing the request, and maybe we want to manipulate the request and search for is there a vulnerability in that website or not. They are really common attacks. Understanding headers, being able to playing with headers are also important for a web app pen tester. So let's continue. Although no headers are strictly required when making a HTTP request, you will find it difficult to view a website properly. Like I said, think you are going in a hotel and asking someone, where is he? Okay, but who is he? So describing your situation better, you will need to describe your situation better, you will need headers, and that's why actually we use them. Common request headers, and of course there is common response headers, because communication is a two-way thing. There is a client and server relation, so two things are speaking each other. First one is request headers, and the second one is response headers. These are headers that are sent from the client, usually your browser, to the server. Some web servers host multiple websites, so by providing the host headers, you can tell it which one you require. Otherwise, you will just receive the default website for the web server. And it talks here this topic. Server has an IP address, and it's connected to the internet, and we can reach that IP address. And there might be many websites in that server. So if you want a specific one, or maybe yes, if you want a specific one, you can specify your wish with host header. User agent. This is your browser's software and version number. Telling the web server your browser software helps it format the website properly for your browser, and also some elements of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS are only available in certain browsers. So this is why the user agent header is actually important and common, because it reorganizes the code maybe for our browser to serve us better. Content length. When sending data to a web server, such as in a form, the content length tells the web server how much data to expect in the web request. This way, the server can ensure it isn't missing any data. It's really important too. It's a control mechanism for our communication with the server. And accept encoding tells the web server what types of compression methods the browser supports, so the data can be made smaller for transmitting over the internet. And the last one here is cookie. Data sent to the server to help remember your information. We will see it. Common response headers. These are the headers. Okay. Set cookie. Information to store which gets sent back to the web server on each request. And we will see it in the cookies task better. Let me have a coffee. Cache control. How long to store the content of the response in the browser's cache before it requests it again. And content type. This tells the client what type of data is being returned: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, image, PDF, video, photo. Actually, yes, it's images. Anyway, using the content type header, the browser then knows how to process the data. And content encoding. What method has been used to compress the data to make it smaller when sending it over the internet? Guys, there is something like that. The server maybe compress the data to make the communication faster. And if it does something like that, it will be better if he tells us which type of encoding method did it use. So the mission of this header is this, telling the content encoding type to us. So let's continue with cookies. These paragraphs really includes important sentences, so be careful. You have probably heard of cookies before. They are just a small piece of data that is stored on your computer. So cookies live in our computer, and the mission of of protecting them is our responsibility. Okay, so let's continue. Cookies are saved when you receive a set cookie header from a web server. So cookies are saved when you receive a set cookie header from a web server. So the reason that cookies are saved in our computers is a header, which is set cookie. If a server responds with a set cookie, then the cookie will be saved in our computer, mostly in our browser. Then every further request you make, you will send the cookie data back to the web server, because HTTP is stateless. It means doesn't keep track of your previous requests. So HTTP is not interested in who we are. HTTP is just a request that full of wishes, but it doesn't describe us. But for most of the websites, it's really important who we are. So the server wants to know all the time who we are, and if it asks us every time, who are you, it will make the communication slow. To avoid that, we use cookies. Let's continue. Cookies can be used to remind the web server who you are, some personal settings for the website, or whether you have been to the website before. Let's take a look at this example HTTP request. Here, let's say, here we make a request. The client request to the web page from HTTP cookies THM. We use get method, and our host, we describe our host because we want to go to a specific website. Maybe there are lots of websites in that server, but we want to go this one. And the response HTTP 200 OK. Again, here we have server header, and it includes the backend information. Actually, it's an information disclosure vulnerability. It shouldn't have to be like that. And let's continue. We have, after these two part, we have our backside. We wanted our website, and the server gave us our website, and then maybe we are now logging in, and to do that we give our name, and after we gave our name as a credential, the web server recognized us, and after now it says, now it's time to set cookie, because I know this person and I don't want to know this person in every request. So I have to create a label for him so I can recognize him every time when I see his or her request. And after that, as you can see, in there is a cookie header in our requests. It's because of the server, and but we hold this cookie in our own computer. So we have to uh, protect it because it's our identity for that website. So let's view this. Okay, it's just for developer tools. If you want to see your cookies, you can right click and after that inspect, and after that you can go to the application or memory, and then you will see the cookies, where the cookie is. So let's solve this lab and then finish our video. Here, make a get request to the room. Okay, let's type here room. Here, get request for this path. If you don't specify it, here by the way we captured our flag anyway. Here, if you don't specify it, it will be like that. It means the default directory. Yani it's like main directory, but there is a file in that directory which is maybe room. Okay, so it's like that. It's like a hierarchy. Anyway, 200 and server had again our vulnerability, our findings actually. Now we found a vulnerability as a pen tester, as a web app pen tester. So let's go for the second question. Make a get request to block. Okay, what will happen? But it's not enough. We have to specify a query string. We will talk with maybe database. Make a, actually, and it's like maybe we won't talk with database. I don't know. I say this because it's looked like a SQL query. That's why. Anyway, so let's save it and go, and then we have captured our second flag. And is there something interesting here to talk about? Okay, everything is clear now. Okay, make a delete request. So we will delete. You see how dangerous that delete method. We can delete someone from the server, and with that request we will delete user 1, and as you can see the user has been deleted with this method delete. And now you see is you see the response code, it is 200. Okay, it means okay, your request was successful. And put user 2. So we will change a value for a user 2, and what is it? With the username parameter to set admin. So we will make user 2 an admin. So let's do it and go. Username change to admin, and it's our flag. And is there something? Yes, you see it's our put request, and it is our parameters. ID is 1, but we didn't specify it. We just specify a user. It is here the browser or the website or the code actually put it there, but we just specify the admin. We gave admin value for a username parameter with this operation. Oh, okay. Actually, we specified that ID and 1. Yes, we can delete it now, as you can see. But actually, it has to stay here, I think. Now you see, it came back because we gave this value. Sorry, I forgot it. And they are separated with this and symbol. Now let's continue with the other one. We did put request, and now post. It's time to make a post request for with the username of THM and the password let me in. So let's add another parameter. The first one is it's a username. Okay, so I can change the username here, but let's delete it. Use okay, actually I should delete it too. Username THM and password is for admin. Okay, close it, go. Cannot find page because we user 2. It's normal. Login. The page has to be login here. And now you see we are sending our credentials with post method because we don't want to we don't want them to be cached in our browser. We don't want to save them in our browser, in our computer, because these are our credentials, and if someone sees these credentials, they may steal our accounts. So that's why we send them with post method. Now invalid username and password combination. Why? Post to use, maybe because of the I don't think so, but let's add these values again. And what was it? The username admin. Okay, it's not important. Actually, it worked before. But it's not important, like I said. The answer for this question is THM HTTP request master. Post the username of THM and a password of let me in. Maybe I brought the how can I say password wrong. Username is THM. Continue. Password is let me in. Okay, and go. Now I got the flag. Anyway, that's all for today, guys. I hope I could teach you some extra things with my research, and I hope I could help you and I could help myself too. That's all from me. See you in the next videos. Goodbye.